What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to continue the conversation on mental diets and hopefully add something positive to your mental diet for today. Part of that has to do with standing in faith. Catching these same resistance patterns that happen over and over, almost like repeatedly. As somebody who has faced a lot of fear and faced a lot of unknown, seeing how these patterns play out over and over helps you hold on to the present moment easier and easier. It's one of the things that starts to happen when maybe you get exposed to some terrifying story on the news, or is this America? You hear what they're doing next, and it's just the shit that just comes through the screen constantly, where it just makes you feel hopeless and like you're alone. All of those, are a lot of it at least, is just not even real. It's types of propaganda, like bandwagon propaganda or straw man propaganda. You see all these fallacies, and so much of the media presents things like that. Especially when there's an obvious narrative and an obvious push by the government and stuff for mandates and vaccines and all this other shit. And you start to see how so much of that is just speaking into the wind. It's I doubt most of the shit the president says ends up past that initial, well, we're gonna go ahead and do this, and then people either cheer or they boo. But then meanwhile, it's have you ever really worked at I did when I was in college, I worked for this company, and the part of the job, I guess, was there's this guy running for mayor of the city, and the city has probably 250,000 people, and for some, I was in my early 20s when this was going on, and I was invited to these meetings. This politician was trying to get elected and whatnot, and the meetings would be 2 hours about letterhead. It's just shit just crawls. It's trying to get groups of people to do anything is like herding cats. It might seem well, you just make a bold statement and then this, but you got to keep in mind, people that are in the world are using force and their own wills to try to manifest things, and that's just not how reality works. It's yeah, you can do it like that, but it's a clusterfuck. It's banging your head against the wall. It's fear. It's suffering. It's a shit show. And that's basically all it is. It's a big shit show, when the reality is everybody's kind of experiencing their own state of consciousness. And that might sound far out there, but once you become more and more present, when you work on becoming still and really focusing on your spiritual life with God, things start to become unraveled, and you start to get new understandings, and you start to see your perception starts to be more and more clear, because your conscious mind is not just filled with all this fear. As you start to really ask, believe, and receive, and embody, and it's not part of the I would call it a stumbling block, of the law of attraction is, and I guess I can get into more of the law of assumption in comparison, but the law of attraction, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, other than it can leave you wanting in the present moment, which is the only time that's actually real. So if you're not embodying the state of desire fulfilled, that being the I'm trying to say in a simple way, so it's if the law of attraction, a lot of times it's the present moment is not good. If I only had a better job, then I'll be happy. If I'm only, had more women to sleep with, then I'll be happy. If I only had more money, then I could be happy. If I can only do this, if I can only have that. Where if you are in that kind of state of mind, the present moment, you're always declaring your lack, your scarcity. That you're embodying that scarcity, and a lot of it's not consciously that you're doing it. It's I just want more money, and it's what you're saying in that statement is that you're scarce. So we're the law of attraction, from my experience of it, is spinning the constant present moment, and like, this isn't good enough, I need something different. But when you start to steward what you do have, and just start taking care of it. If you have like a yard, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna mow it, I'm gonna trim it, I'm just gonna just do what I can to make it look nice. It's like, I have a chicken coop. I just spent yesterday painting on it, and like painting the door. It's not the greatest, structure, in the world. It's just four posts. I mean, it was big enough to store a car in there. But like, I might try to take some pictures to show you guys, the actual farm. I might have something on my phone. Yeah, I'll be more prepared on the next one. But just, taking what you have and is like making that better. Looking at yourself, and instead of like, oh, there's so many things wrong with me, and I'm this way and that way, and it's like, realize that God loves you right now. It's like, you were blessed right now. And so where like the law of attraction, is constantly being in a state of wanting, the law of assumption is, I feel like, more biblically sound. And it's basically embodying, making that future state your present, reality. So it's like you're thinking from the desire already being fulfilled. And so when you see, any madness going on in the world, and you're reacting to it, and you're starting to like wrestle against it, I want to battle it. For one, what you resist persists. So if you really want whatever it is that's bothering you in the world, look at it. Don't run and hide from it. Face it. But then instead of just reacting and reacting, ask God how you can look at that differently. And then be still and wait for that infinite intelligence to help you get a new thought about it. A different way to look at it. One of the things that had me in a kind of a feedback loop, was like, looking outwards at society, and maybe at people that have achieved things or have done things. I'm thinking, oh, they all must be Freemasons, or oh, they all must be in some secret society. Oh, they all must be fill in the blank. It's like some attribute of the they. But that was just a story I was telling myself, and then seeing that being reflected into reality more and more so. And so. Which then strengthen that belief. But you can let go of any of these beliefs, and that's a big part of this thing. Is when you have your fear thoughts going, and you're just reacting to them. For one, kind of be still. When the thought comes, it goes. The feeling comes and goes. But you aren't those thoughts, and you're not the feelings. But when you're in that kind of observer space, that I am aware of being space, which can be triggering on some level, but it's something that you experience more and more so by being still, by being calm, by being present. You start to catch these things as they come and they go, and when you realize that it's always a battle to stay at rest. They come, they go, they come, they go. It's like sometimes, like my own self, when I quit smoking, I had to deal with a lot of anger, processing anger, differently. And there's be times I'd be triggered all fucking day, and just lashing out, being an asshole, and everything else. But then, you sit in your own mind and be like, you got these thoughts, these stories that you're telling yourself about the wrongs that people have done, or the irritations, or whatever fucking little dramas that's going on. And then you start to go, how long am I going to tell myself that story? The other person's nowhere near me, and I'm still telling myself this story. It's only affecting me. It's only pissing me off. It's only draining my energy. It's stupid to continuously do that to myself. So I'm going to choose to do something differently. And just that act of choosing to do it differently starts giving you enough space where you can be open to a new state, And so part of like moving from a state of like, say, anger to a state of like joy is realizing that the problem and the solution came at the same time. And what I mean by that is the problem is the thought, and the solution is the new thought that I don't got to worry about that. It's moving more in a direction of how do I say this? It's like, instead of I gotta do, it's more of a trusting that God's already done it, and that I don't really have to do it. It's like it's already been done. all I have to do is connect with the energy of it already being like that, that it's already that way. I don't have a problem. I see that a lot with people like right now, where it's just like, where in the past, a lot of these, like, when you're trying to wake people up in the past, it's like, well, can't you, for me, this has been a decade-long thing, decades, 9/11, it was like, well, look at Building 7. That doesn't make sense that a building just sympathy collapses. that doesn't make sense. Why aren't you looking at that? And then all the lies and deceptions and all these things along the way, being like, well, what? It's like, you can't see how that's messed up. You can't see how that's. Anyway, you get into these things with people, and they're like, well, what does it matter to me what's going on in the Middle East? I don't live in the Middle East. Fuck those people. That's some of the sentiment I get. Especially recently with what's going on with Afghanistan, which I'm glad the United States is out of Afghanistan. They should have never been there in the first place. It was all built on lies and bullshit. It was like most of the terrorists in 9/11 were Saudis. Saudi Arabians. If you believe the official narrative, which there's so many holes in that. It's just look into it for yourself, and there's no reason to continue to rehash that. Maybe there is, but like, those people that refuse to listen to it, refuse to pay attention to it, it's like, why are you listening to obvious liars? There's something sinister going on. There's this, and then you eventually get to a point with them where it's like, until it comes to their knocking on their front door, they don't give a fuck. Well, now it's knocking on their front door. Everybody's having to make a choice right now. And part of that, is like, you didn't resist the face mask. You didn't, if you didn't resist the face mask, why do you think that you're going to resist the vaccine? It's like, oh, well, I can keep pushing it off, and then someone's going to save me, so I'm not going to have to make a decision. I can just sit on the fence and just have my cake and eat it too, type thing. And it's like, everybody's making choices right now, and part of that is choosing fear or choosing love, and the choice is yours. Ultimately, if you choose separation, choose to believe in that, you become one with fear and suffering. So your present moment is constantly anxiety, it's anger, it's because you're not seeing the connectedness of all things. And so when it comes to these mandates and everything like that, this is either an opportunity for you to stand up, and a lot of times, getting kicked out of the beast system might seem scary at first. When it happened to me, it was like a weird series of events that just totally just fucked my my whole music business. It was just like, I was trying to redo a website, and then the domain it ran out. I couldn't renew it, and then somebody bought it, and then next thing you know, my other website just went to shit, and then it was just this cascade of things. It was just like a perfect storm of everything, and it's like, seeing how different people now it's being brought to them. It's like, well, if you didn't stand up with the mask, or are you going to stand up with the vax? Are you going to say no when it comes to getting a booster, showing paper? How far are you willing to let things devolve? And for the ones that are choosing to devolve, it's a snake eating itself. It's self-destructing, so it's like, are you choosing to self-destruct or not? Are you choosing fear, or are you choosing love? And ultimately it boils down to an inner decision, because there's nobody to change but self, which is sometimes hard to hear, because it's like so habitual to blame others for your problems, and sometimes it's difficult to take responsibility and ownership of what's going on in your own life. Once you start looking at others as being like a mirror, and what is going on with them, kind of go within yourself and ask, is this something I can perceive differently? Can I tell myself a different story about this? Instead of just, oh, there's a past interpretation that is just reasserting itself, and I just keep telling myself the same thing over and over again. It's just these loops. And once you realize that, it's like, did you make that part of your identity on some level? Because and somebody left a good comment. I got it, but like for some reason it wasn't showing up, about relationships can be part of your identity. Lots of things can be part of like this identity that we've created, this old kind of persona, this personality or whatever, that came, through, the old man, as the Bible would say, the old Jew. Looking at that more and more so, as like, oh, I'm married to this person, so that's part of my identity, or I'm in this relationship, and my role in that relationship is now my identity. None of that's your identity. That's not who you are. And a lot of times you can catch these things when maybe somebody calls you out, like calls you a name, like maybe calls you like a cripple, or calls you like there's any derogatory name, and if you take offense to it, part of why you took offense to it is because you made that part of your identity. And so it's like, if someone calls me like a cracker or a wop, or like any of these type, and I get offended, I made my skin color my identity. I made my ethnicity part of my identity. Oh, he's a straight married heterosexual male married, and so that's part of and it's like all of these things. Take a good look at them, and you don't got to throw everything out and just start over, but just start to see what's serving you and what's not, and then it's easy enough to figure that out, because what's keeping you from experiencing joy and happiness right now? That's the block. That's the resistance. It's not well, it's some narrative that's going on that, some impending doom is on the horizon of the future. I think that's a big spell, because it's only ever now, for one, and for two, it leads to hopelessness. It also leads to, there's nothing I can do about, but when you realize that you're not a separate little brain in a body, but you're actually connected with your everything. You're connected with me. You're connected with your neighbors. You're connected with your environment. You're connected with your life situations and circumstances. You're connected with God. You're connected with the spiritual, because everything is spiritual, and it happens spiritually first, so it's like the things that happen to people started in the mind, as much as that might be difficult to understand. It's when you start to take ownership, then you start to see how your thought patterns have created a lot of these situations. And when it comes to now having some skin in the game, now is a perfect time to either choose the beast system or choose the life God gave you to live. I don't think the life that God gave you to live involves getting raped, which is basically what I consider being forced to inject something in your body with, which gets me with people is like, it's like, even if you got an exemption, I mean, would you really want to work for a place that unconscious, that they'd be willing to inject? It's one thing if you had a choice, go do whatever is right for you to do. But when it comes to, you're going to force me to inject something in me that, especially if you've already had COVID, that doesn't make sense, and part of it's not supposed to make sense. And a lot of it might be, that beast system job is keeping you miserable, because it's the opposite of what you desire to be doing. So many times we settle for things, and that imagination that we had this vision of where we wanted to be, it's pushed away further and further to a point where it almost feels like a lie. It's like, I can't achieve that, I can't do that. But you can be, do, or have anything. Ultimately just trust that God's already given it to you, and when the phone rings, go for it. When the synchronicity happens, go with it. So many times, and it's like you won't have to go far. It's like, if you're on the fence about, do I quit, do I stay, do I give up my bodily autonomy for my employer, start, go within, ask God to help you, and then maybe a friend will be like, hey, my job's hiring, or some just, I just seen on Facebook there was an open position. Every place in my town is hiring. So it's really hard for me to like relate with people where it's like, I'm out of options, I don't know what to do, and it's just like, get a different fucking job or start your own. It's not hard to make money, and so it's hard for me to relate. But there was a time where I just like, if I'm not doing music, then I'm a failure or whatever. Realizing that so much of that shit, is like, I'm trying to pursue this job because I think that if I just hit the next level, then I'll be happy. When that's backwards, it's like, you be happy, you be at peace, you be how you want to feel. Now you choose that, you create that, I guess, or co-create that with God. It's like, that energy, that feeling, how does it feel to be free? And just put that on. Think from that. You start to assume that you are already free because God's already told you you're free. And as you believe that, your faith will be rewarded, and you'll see it in your life situations, and things will start to play out like that. And it's like, it's one thing to hear, but it's another thing to do it. And, I see this as a big opportunity for people that have just been too afraid to jump. Sometimes God will just push you, regardless of whether you feel like you're ready to jump or not. And so, look at all these things as a blessing. Even if you do get fired, if you get fired or whatever, not the end of the world. This is probably the best thing that could ever happen to you. And with that, being said, I think I'm going to bounce. I don't know what I'm going to do the rest of the day. I got to be a estimate in about 3 hours, but until then, I think I'm going to work on the house a little bit, the chickens outside a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of out of it today, and so I just don't really feel like being out in public. I'd just rather just be at home, maybe doing music related things. I got all sorts of stuff to kind of figure out, but yeah, I just want to get on here and ramble a little bit. Just give somebody some content. If they want to improve their mental diet, especially if they're spiraling in all the worst case scenarios and the fears and everything else. It's really not that scary of a time. People are only doing the shit to themselves. Once you realize that, then that takes a lot of the fear out of it. Where it's just like, yeah, I mean, if you just say no, that's it. That's there's there it is what it is. But I'm kind of stammering around here, so I'm gonna go. So I appreciate you guys' liking, sharing, subscribing. I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. Thank you for that. And until the next now, God bless.